Rexburg, Idaho, a small town where everyone knows everyone, a quiet place with a reputation for safety, community, and an idyllic lifestyle. The perfect backdrop for a horrific story that would soon unfold. It's the kind of town where tragedy doesn't strike until it does. But in 2019, Rexburg would become the epicenter of a mystery that gripped the nation. A mystery that would unfold in the dark corners of religious extremism, manipulation, and murder. In this deep dive, we'll unravel the shocking story of Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell, whose apocalyptic beliefs would lead them down a dangerous path, resulting in the deaths of two innocent children, Tylee Ryan and J.J. Vallow. The story begins with Lori Vallow, a mother of two, recently separated and searching for purpose. She found that purpose in an unlikely place through a man named Chad Daybell, a doomsday author and self-proclaimed prophet. Chad's teachings seemed to resonate with Lori's inner struggles, filling the void in her life with promises of eternal salvation. Chad's visions were apocalyptic. He believed that the end of the world was near, and only the chosen few would survive. He claimed that he could communicate with angels, spirits, and even the dead. Lori, at a vulnerable time in her life, fell under his spell. Together, they began to share an obsession with the coming end of days, something that would alter the course of their lives forever. Chad wasn't just a preacher, he was a manipulator. He told Lori that her children Tylee and JJ were dark spirits or zombies, souls trapped in human bodies, hindering her spiritual path. He convinced Lori that the only way to achieve salvation, to fulfill her divine purpose, was to rid herself of these children. With each passing day, the line between reality and delusion became more blurred. Chad's influence over Lori deepened as he painted a picture of an apocalyptic world, where only those who followed his teachings would survive the coming destruction. The first death occurred on September 8, 2019. Tylee Ryan, a 16-year-old girl, vanished without a trace. For weeks, no one suspected the truth. Lori and Chad carried on as if nothing had changed. But behind closed doors, something far more sinister was happening. Investigators were left puzzled, but Lori's behavior was beginning to raise red flags. Soon after, the body of 7-year-old J.J. Vallow disappeared. The truth, hidden in plain sight, was that both children had been murdered. The couple, under the influence of their apocalyptic beliefs, had coldly and calculatingly removed the obstacles they saw in their path to salvation. As law enforcement began to investigate, a web of lies and manipulation slowly began to unravel. The first clues came from the Vallow family's interactions with law enforcement. Both Lori and Chad's stories were inconsistent, and their alibis didn't hold up under scrutiny. Detectives quickly discovered that Lori had been lying about her children's whereabouts for months. Her behavior was erratic. She refused to cooperate with the authorities, giving them multiple conflicting explanations. It was clear to investigators that something was terribly wrong, but the full extent of the horror wouldn't become apparent until much later. In June 2020, nearly 9 months after the children's disappearance, Investigators made a chilling discovery. After searching Chad Daybell's property, they unearthed the remains of Tylee and JJ, buried beneath the soil. The bodies were found in shallow graves, concealed from the world in the backyard of a man who had once promised salvation. The discovery was haunting. Tylee's body had been dismembered, and JJ had been found in a plastic bag. The gruesome nature of the killings sent shockwaves through the community, and the evidence of Lori and Chad's role in these crimes was now undeniable. Following the discovery of the children's bodies, Lori and Chad were arrested, facing charges of murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and multiple counts of child endangerment. The trial would become a spectacle, watched by millions. For months, the world would witness as prosecutors laid out a case that exposed the depths of the couple's depravity. The prosecution argued that Lori and Chad were not merely victims of delusion, they were cold, calculating murderers. The evidence painted a clear picture of two people who had been driven by selfish desires, who had manipulated each other and those around them in a twisted bid for power. The defense, however, was equally determined. They tried to argue that Lori's mental state had been compromised by her beliefs, suggesting that she had become a victim of her devotion to Chad. They claimed that Lori had been under Chad's spell, unable to fully understand the consequences of her actions. But the defense's argument faltered when key evidence showed that both Lori and Chad had planned the murders meticulously, leaving nothing to chance. Their behavior after the killings, vacationing, getting married, was damning evidence of their lack of remorse. After months of hearings, the jury delivered their verdict. Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow were found guilty of the murders of Tylee and JJ. The sentence was swift, but for the families left behind, no amount of justice could undo the pain and loss. Lori's sentencing was especially emotional. She faced life in prison without the possibility of parole, while Chad was sentenced to death. But the true punishment, for many, was the loss of the children, the lives that were senselessly taken because of a twisted belief system that had manipulated people into committing the unthinkable. The tragic story of Tylee Ryan and J.J. Vallow doesn't end with the sentencing. It serves as a chilling reminder of how belief systems, especially extreme ones, can lead to manipulation, violence, and loss. As we reflect on this case, we must ask ourselves, how far can faith go before it becomes dangerous? How can we protect those most vulnerable from those who prey on their fears and insecurities? What lessons can we learn from the story of Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell? The danger of extreme beliefs, the power of manipulation, and the devastating consequences of misplaced faith. This case serves as a haunting reminder that sometimes what we believe in can lead to horrific acts. Let us know your thoughts on this case. What do you think drove Lori and Chad to such extremes? Was it love, manipulation, or something even darker? Leave your comments below. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into one of the most tragic and disturbing true crime stories in recent memory. Remember to subscribe, like, and share if you found this investigation insightful. And, as always, stay safe.